We are the Gujarat Technological University. Since its inception over a decade ago, GTU has been empowering young and curating minds to realize their true potential. Over 4 lakh inspired students are enrolled with one of the premier academic universities in India. With more than 450 affiliated colleges in its fold operating across 5 zones of the state, GTU, the International Innovative University, your place to move forward.
Hello students, myself Dr. Rupali V. Goyal, Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering Department, SVIT Vasar. Today we are going to discuss second part of topic, that is global environmental issues. In first part, I have discussed the concept of sustainable development and global climate change. So there are 3 other topics which are very important, which are called as global warming, acid rain and ozone depletion, that we are going to discuss in second part. Here in the global environmental issues, we will be discussing 3 global issues. First, global warming and greenhouse effect. Second, acid rain. And third, ozone layer depletion. These 3 are very important phenomena as far as the global environmental changes taking place, as well as for the examination point of view also. So basically, before learning this global warming, we have to understand the concept of greenhouse effect. And what is greenhouse? So in the figure you can see this is the greenhouse, which is generally consisting of this glass, and this greenhouse is generally made up of glass to have very high temperature inside, because what will happen, this glass that will absorb the solar radiation, then this heat energy will be trapped inside, because it cannot go out, and due to that high temperature is maintained. So generally this kind of greenhouse that are used in colder countries, and just to raise the plants to maintain the temperature, humidity and carbon dioxide. So what happens in this, the short wave length which are passing through the glass, so whenever it is coming from the solar radiation, it is a short wavelength, and they are absorbed and they are converted into heat energy, and that will be converted in the form of the infrared radiation having higher wavelength. So these infrared radiations that are prevented by the glass, so that cannot go out from this, and they will be trapped inside, and this heat energy inside the air temperature rises and keeps it warmer than the surrounding, and this phenomena is called as greenhouse effect. Then this kind of phenomena, whatever I observed, told, that is some of the atmospheric gases and air pollutants, they are also behaving in the similar way as the greenhouse, and that's why they are called as the greenhouse gases. जैसे glass trap करता है सोलर एनर्जी, सिमिलर वे ये गैसेस भी ट्रैप करते हैं एनर्जी. दे आर परमिएबल टू शॉर्ट वेव लेंथ, एंड दे आर एब्जॉर्बिंग द इंफ्रारेड रेडिएशन एमिटेड फ्रॉम द अर्थ. So that is why it is called as greenhouse effect, and all the gases which are acting in a similar manner, making this continuous layer of all the gases which are responsible for this heat trapping phenomena, that is which is called as greenhouse effect. So short wave radiation are coming, then long wave infrared radiation that are trapped, and that is resulting into heat, and that has increased the temperature of our earth, and that is what which is meant by greenhouse effect. So we have discussed the greenhouse effect. Now which are the gases which are doing the similar kind of effect as greenhouse does? So for that, these are the list of the different gases which are acting as greenhouse effect and responsible for increasing the temperature. So here very first, that is carbon dioxide. This is major contributor towards global warming or greenhouse effect. So around 60% that is contribution from carbon dioxide. Second is methane. So around 20% contribution towards greenhouse gas. Next is nitrous oxide, that is around 6%. Then CFC, that is having around 14% contribution towards this greenhouse gases to the total warming. And other is water vapor. So these are the major gases which are responsible for greenhouse effect, and that's why they are called as the greenhouse gases. So now as we know that this greenhouse effect is responsible for global warming on the earth's surface, but you can't say that this warming is bad, because a normal warming of the earth is very desirable for maintaining the good temperature for living. Otherwise you may find very cold temperature here on the earth. But large scale pollution that has resulted into due to this rapid industrialization, that has made it severe. So So basically there are two types of greenhouse effect. One which is called as the natural greenhouse effect, so in which whatever normal concentration of CO2 and other gases that are trapping heat energy and that are keeping our earth warm, and that is called as enhanced greenhouse effect. So that is natural phenomena. But whatever that is human enhanced phenomena due to increase in population pollution and all the increase in concentration of the various greenhouse gases, and that is called as, that is due to pollution, which is called as the enhanced greenhouse effect. So this enhanced greenhouse effect, that is the problem, not the natural greenhouse effect. So due to this enhanced greenhouse effect, there is a continuous increase in the average temperature of the global atmosphere is observed, and which is called as global warming, and this has almost increased 1 degree Celsius up till now. And for this global warming, you should know one term which is called as global warming potential. Basically this CO2, that is the major contributor towards the greenhouse effects. Warming which is done by CO2, that is compared with the warming done by other substance. So it is the ratio of warming caused by any substance divided by warming caused by similar mass of CO2. So definitely this global. Now we'll see this major greenhouse gases. So first one is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, there are many sources of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. First is natural source, second is anthropogenic, that is human made sources. So in the natural source, then volcanoes and the combustion and natural decay of the organic matter, that is the major natural source. Then respiration by the aerobic organism. So we are also in the respiration, we are also emitting carbon dioxide. So these are natural source, but most of the man-made sources, which are called as the anthropogenic source, that are responsible for enhanced greenhouse effect. So burning of fossil fuel, all in these vehicles and this industries that we are using, that is responsible for emitting more and more concentration of CO2. Then production of cement, burning of forest and clearing of the land. So here this burning of forest, the natural fire may also be there, but this burning of forest, that has aggravated in today's scenario. So this anthropogenic emission currently account for the annual about 6 gigaton of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and this CO2 level in the atmosphere has increased from pre-industrial level, that was around 280 ppm, to now 368 ppm in 2000, and it is continuously going to increase. So here these are the contribution from the different sectors that are given, from transportation sector 34%, electricity, industrial sector, then residential and commercial sector, and other non-fossil fuel combustion sector that are emitting carbon dioxide. Next important gas, that is CH4, that is methane. So sources are anaerobic decomposition by the bacteria, which are called as methanogens. So methanogens are responsible for forming methane. Second is garbage dumps, that swamps are also responsible. Then flooded rice field, then enteric fermentation of cattle, that is also responsible. Then biomass burning, these are all possible sources of atmospheric CH4. And global warming potential is 25, means it is more dangerous as compared to CO2, because its warming is 25 times more than CO2, but lifespan is 7 to 10 years with concentration 1.675 ppm. So here all the possible emissions by the source given as per the data of US, so that you can see here these are the contributions. Now chlorofluorocarbon, this is a very important compound, because this is responsible for both global warming as well as for ozone depletion. So these are the synthetic compounds of carbon and halogens. So there are various sources of the CFC, leaking AC and refrigerator, because they are used as coolant. So if they are leaking, then they are responsible for CFCs. Then evaporation of industrial solvents, then plastic foam production, propellant in the erosion spray can. So these are all related to our modern lifestyle. It's a global warming potential is too much, that is 1500 to 7000, but its concentration is less, that is around 0.00225 ppm, but it stays in atmosphere for 65 to 110 years. So here all the sources are given in the aerosols and AC and refrigerator, etc. So in this agricultural sector, when we are using nitrogenous rich fertilizer, and that is responsible for emitting the nitrous oxide in the air. as well as when nitrate contaminated water is used in agriculture, that is also responsible for this atmospheric N2O. When we are using nitrogen rich fuel and when it is burned, the part of the nitrogen that react with oxygen in the air and that get oxidized and creating the nitrous oxide emission. Also, one of the major stationary emission is coming from the coal fired power plant. So these are all the major sources from which this N2O is coming, and its global warming potential is 230. Its lifespan is around 140 to 190 years, but the concentration is less in atmosphere. So here are all the possible. Now here also this data that are taken from EPA, that is Environmental Protection Agency, that has released. So this CO2 emission from the fossil fuel combustion as well as some industrial processes by different countries. So you can see this China, that is having 30% contribution, then United States around 15%, then after then European Union 9%, then after it comes India. So here all the economic sector that are giving or increasing global warming potential. So what are the effects of global warming? So climate change, that is the but obvious impact of this, and due to this warming, around 1.4 to 5.8 degrees centigrade by 2100 from 1990 it would take, and it has pronounced effect on all the global climate regime. So it's all responsible for rainfall pattern which is changed, drying of surface water body, conversion of fertile land into desert land, severe water shortage, then fall in the groundwater table, change in crop pattern, change in vegetation process, growth of microorganisms. So these are all global climate change that is due to global warming. Next is rise in sea level. So due to this high temperature on the earth, the melting of the ice, that is from the glaciers, that will rise the sea water level, and during 20th century the sea level has already risen by 10 centimeter, and this rises more than half of the rise in 2000 years, and this rise will point to 1.5 meter in next 50 to 100 years. So this is just the prediction, and it is estimated that if sea level rises by 1 meter, then 1.5 kilometer of the island in the coastline that will be covered by the water. So that inundation, that means pani ni andar jatu rahu. So rise in sea level will result in the inundation of the coastal region, and this submergence of Iceland that will take place. So that is threat to all the people who are living nearby coastal region. Next is it is also affecting our health, that is due to hot climate, that the climate change that has resulted in more and more that vector-borne disease like malaria, filariasis, etc. Other effects, decrease in food production that has observed. The yield of rice is reduced by 5% for each 1 degree rise in the temperature in Southeast Asia. Also, it has bad effect on the flora and fauna. So ultimately, it will affect many ecosystem, and that will ultimately affect the whole whatever humankind living on the earth's surface. So how to control this global warming? So basically, as greenhouse gases are responsible, we have to try to reduce the greenhouse gases, increase in vegetation cover because they are the major sink of carbon dioxide, then use of methane as a fuel, because fuel is a methane can be used as a fuel, so that is responsible for global warming. So if we can trap that and we can use it as a fuel, then it is beneficial to us. Reduction in the nitrogen rich fertilizer, so instead of going for the artificial fertilizer, if we can switch over to organic fertilizer, then it is best. Then phasing of CFC and finding its alternative. So instead of CFCs, we should try to find out the alternative which are good and they are having less potential. Reduction in the population, that is the major one, and use of renewable resources. So these are the options or the control measures that can be. Next phenomena, and that is called as acid rain. So basically this acid rain is acid which is present in your rain, but natural rain, it is acidic only, that is having pH around 5.6 due to formation of this H2CO3. Basically this CO2 is the normal concentration in atmosphere, it combines with water, so it will result in carbonic acid. Due to presence of this, it is normally acidic only, that is 5.6, but still if more acidic proportions are there and if its pH is less than 5.6, then only it is termed as acid rain. So this reduction in pH of the rainwater is basically due to dissolution of oxides of nitrogen and oxides of sulfur. So these are two major responsible uh, components that are responsible for acid rain. So when NOx are present, that will result in nitric acid, and SOx are present, that will result in sulfuric acid. So here in the figure you can see that all the sources of NOx and SOx due to humankind that are resulting in HNO3 and H2SO4, and that is generally basically combining with water and resulting in the form of acid rain. So basically this SO2 first converted into SO3 in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of water, it will be converted into H2SO4, that is sulfuric acid, and this NO that will be converted into NO2 and then ultimately HNO3, that is called as nitric acid. So these are the two major contributors. So around this sulfuric acid, that is having around 60 to 70% contribution, while this nitric acid, that is having 30 to 40%. So you can say that the major contributor are NOx in form of H2. So there are basically two types of deposition of acid rain is observed. First is wet deposition and second is dry deposition. So whenever this H2SO4 and HNO3 they are formed, when they are mixing with the particulate matter and other gases, and they will fall on the surface of the earth in a dry form without combination with the rainwater, then it is generally called as dry deposition. But the same they are resulting due to its reaction with water, they will form in the they will fall in the terms of wet deposition, that is combining with snow, rain, etc. Snow, rain or other sleet form. So that is called as wet deposition. So these are the two types of deposition of acid rain is possible. So which are the causes of this acid rain? So basically we have to more focus on this emission source of SO2 and NO2. So that are basically due to burning of fossil fuel and into the rainwater. Then this dissolution of oxides of nitrogen emitted by the automobile exhaust into rainwater, then dissolution of oxides of nitrogen and sulfur dioxide released from the chimney of the smelting industry, industrial plants using sulfur dioxide and nitric acid. So basically whatever the sources which are responsible for formation of SO2 and NO2, they are the major contributor towards acid rain. So we have to try to control this SOx and NOx if you want to avoid the acid rain. Now we'll see the effects of this acid rain on various sectors. So first is on human health. So as far as the human health is concerned, that is basically related to respiratory disease. So that will aggravate the situation of respiratory disease in the area which is affected from this acid rain. Next is effect on aquatic life. So generally it is having capability to mobilize certain heavy metals like cadmium and mercury in the soil. So it will leach out and that will reach to your surface water source. Then reproductive failure in the aquatic life is observed in due to this acid rain. And as acid that is having very less pH, that will result in acidification of the lakes and stream, and that will cause the disappearance of many aquatic life, then killing of bacteria, algae and others. Next effect is on vegetation. Acid rain may decolorize and leaves the plant, that is reduce its chlorophyll content. Then reduction in the foliage and it will weaken the trees. And also in the highly industrialized area, the forests are virtually killed due to this acid rain effect. Also it has effect on the structure and property. So this acid rain can damage the structural materials like marble and limestone, as well as this metal get oxidized. So here reactions are given. The CaCO3 in presence of H, that will lose its original content of iron and calcium. So this monument, especially one very marked observed effect is observed, that is of Taj Mahal, that acid rain that has reacted with the marble and that has changed its color. So also it will reduce the fertility of soil. This low soil pH diminish the bacterial activity in the soil, because certain favorable pH range is essential for the bacteria to live in. So that will be suppressed by this, because they will affect on nutrient fixation. Also the uptake of the nutrients by the plant is also hindered due to leaching out of the nutrients due to low pH conditions. So it will affect the soil fertility also. Also it is having effect on ecosystem. So it will break the food chain and food web and thereby reduce the biodiversity. So you can say that it will ultimately affect the entire ecosystem. So now these are some of the pictures of this effects are shown, that is effects on monuments. It will take up its beauty. This is the beauty of how it is affecting the beauty of this wonderful structures. Then here how this killing of fish, thousands and thousands of fishes in the aquatic life is destroyed. Then effect on vegetation, all due to acid rain. So here also one comparison is given for the pH. Here you can see this plant when the pH is having normal range of 6.5 to 7.5, and here this is the growth when pH is less. So this way it is affecting each and every creature on the earth surface. So now what are the control measures for this acid rain? So definitely we have to focus on decreasing the emission of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, adopting the energy conservation measures, then use of less coal in the power plant, and utilizing non-polluting energy resource, because they are the major contributor towards these two major sources of acid rain. Lake and soil extremely acidified, that can be treated with lime to rejuvenate it, but it is very costly kind of thing. Economically it may not be possible. Release of SO2 can be controlled by adopting certain suitable SO2 reducing equipment in the industry and thermal power plants, so that air pollution control equipments are to be adopted. Natural gases can be used in place of high sulfur coal for producing the industry in thermal power plant. Considering the other renewable sources of energy as option to the non-renewable resource, and that is for the future fuel. So that is the demand of today, to switch over from non-renewable. Next global issue that we are facing today, that is called as ozone layer depletion. So first we should understand about this ozone. So it is basically a gas composed of 3 atoms of oxygen, and generally it is a bluish color gas, and which is harmful to breathe. When it is present in more proportion in troposphere region, it is considered to be a pollutant, but it is majorly present in stratosphere, that is around 90% of the earth's ozone that is available in stratosphere, that is around 20 to 25 kilometer. Then it is referred to as ozone layer, and basically it is very good as far as earth's atmosphere is concerned, because it absorbs the band of UV radiation which is in the range of UVB and UVC. So this stratospheric ozone layer that is present in the stratosphere region, that is our protective layer by absorbing the harmful UV radiation to reach in our tropospheric region and saving human health. So here this phenomena, that is absorption of this UV rays, basically in the range of B and C. So here in the figure you can see that 95% of the UVB that are absorbed by this ozone layer, as well as 100% UVC that is absorbed by ozone layer, but only 5% of UVA radiation that will be observed by this ozone layer. So here all the ranges of UVA, UVB and UVC are given. So you can say that this harmful radiation UVB and UVC, these two are the major one which are affecting the health of human being, and that is absorbed by this layer. So it is just not a layer, but it is a protector, and that is called as the ozone umbrella, because it is just working as umbrella to take all this harmful radiation, and that is not allowing it to reach to our earth surface. So now we have to now understand this phenomena of ozone production as well as destruction. So basically ozone formation and destruction is a natural process that is taking place continuously in the environment in the stratospheric region. So this oxygen in presence of sunlight, that will be resulted in 2 molecular oxygen O, and that again combined with the oxygen in the presence of some third party, it will be resulted in O3. So ozone is formed. This O3 again in the presence of sunlight, it will be converted into molecular oxygen and O2 component. So this ozone formation and destruction is in equilibrium in nature, is maintained. It is forming as well as it is destructing, and that is in balance. But why this excessive destruction has taken place? So this O3 ozone, in when some chlorine compounds are present, that will result in O2 and ClO, and this ClO again combines with the this molecular oxygen, and that will be result in again O2 and Cl. So again this Cl is responsible for disrupting this ozone. So this Cl, from where it is coming? It is coming from CFC, and major compounds are CFC11 and CFC12. So here this arrangement of this CFC11 and 12 is given. So this Cl compound which is coming from this CFC compound, that can destroy around 1 lakh of ozone molecules, and as this is in very vast proportion that are emitting in the atmosphere, and that is reaching to that stratospheric level, this Cl is. So here this ozone depletion by CFC, that is how it is happening, that's what I want to explain. So this photo dissociation of CFC releases the chlorine atom. So some of this active in depleting the ozone. So as this Cl and ClO, they are responsible. For example, I am taking this CFCl3, that is called CFC11. That is the major contributor. It reacts with the light, result in CFCl2 plus Cl. Then this CFCl2 formed by this dissociation again react with the light, it forms CFCl and again Cl compound. So each time you can see the Cl compound is formed whenever there is a dissociation of any CFC compound take place. So again this CCl2 in the presence of sunlight, again it is forming Cl. So all this Cl that is coming, and that chlorine atom deplete the odd oxygen largely by the following cycle. So that is Cl combining with O3, again ClO, O2, and again this ClO, it is combining with O, and again this Cl is formed. So it is a continuous process of destruction that is taking place, and that is all due to this CFC compound. So here you can see the same phenomena, whatever CFC that we are generating, that is reaching and emitting this Cl compound, and this Cl compound, that is again in the cyclic reaction goes on destroying our ozone hole. So number one, that is CFC is released. Number two, CFC rises into ozone layer. Third, that is UV releases Cl from CFCs, then Cl destroy the ozone. Then number 5, it shows that depletion of the ozone and more UV rays are coming, and if more UV rays are there, then more skin cancer cases are happening. So this is the whole process of ozone layer depletion. So there are many responsible substances which are responsible for ozone depletion, that is called as ODS, ozone depleting substances. So major one is CFCs, so ESCS, CFC11 and CFC12, then halogens, then methyl bromide, carbon tetrachloride, nitrous oxide which is emitted from the spacecraft, then methyl chloroform, HCFC and HFC. But these two are least depleting potential towards our ozone depletion. So these are the sources of all these products in which we are using different CFCs that are given in the figure. So these are all products that are basically related to our modern life. Now we'll talk about the ozone depleting potential. So basically CFC11 is the major contributor. So its potential is compared with any other substance. So it is the ratio of the impact on ozone caused by the chemical compared to the impact of similar mass of CFC11. So definitely this ODP, that is ozone depleting potential of CFC, is 1. Now you might have heard about this Antarctic ozone hole. Basically it's not a hole which has taken place at that particular place, but that is related to the area having less than 220 Dobson unit of ozone in the overhead column. So that is between the ground and space. If less proportion, that is less than 220 Dobson unit of ozone is present, then it is called as ozone hole. So for good ozone layer, now here in this figure how this ozone layer is destroyed over years. So here you can see the unit measurement given. So this blue color, it is very less proportion, and then red is good proportion. So here in the range of 100 to 200, means it is less than 220 Dobson unit. So you can see this is 1979, this is 1987, this 2006 and 2011. More and more proportion of bluish portion is increasing, means it is continuously decreasing below level which is desirable. to be present in stratospheric region, and that's why it is called as the ozone hole, or which is called as thinning of the ozone layer. So there are many health effects and other effects of this ozone layer depletion. So this UVB and C are very dangerous. They are affecting your DNA. They are also responsible for the skin cancer, premature aging of the skin that would take place. Also other skin problems may come up. Then eye related disease, that is quadricmotio, that is the major one. Then immune system suppression that would take place. Fair people, they are at very great risk due to this UV radiation, whatever destroyed, because they are having less melanin, and basically this UV that will affect this melanin producing cell of the epidermis. So they are having less melanin, and if it, more if it is destroyed due to this UV exposure, then that will affect them as compared to other people. Then it also affect the growth of microorganism and phytoplankton. If these phytoplankton are affected, they are the first in the food chain of the aquatic life. That's why the food chain and food web that will be affected. Also that will reduces the photosynthesis and reduce the crop yield, and its nutritious value are decreases. All its effect will be observed on all the major crops that we are growing and which we are using as for our food purpose. Also the degradation of paint, plastic and other polymers are observed due to this excessive UV present. So now we'll talk about the protection of this ozone layer. So if you want to protect the ozone layer, then we should try to reduce the CFCs and other ODS, that is ozone depleting substances, which are having more ozone depleting potential with the low ozone depleting potential substances. So here you can see HCFC, HFC and HC and ammonia. They are considered to be low ozone depleting substances. So that is to be removed. Even we stop all the ODS, and it will take around 50 to 100 years to return to the level of 1985 and further 100 to 200 years for full recovery. So it is very essential that we should focus on this ODS substance replacement with the low ODS substance. Now related to this, Montreal Protocol was framed in 1987, and all the participant countries, they were agreed to freeze the production of CFC at 1986 level, to reduce the production of CFC by 50% by 1999. And in 1992, the phase out date of the CFC and the halon was moved to 1996. So this is, so students, we can say that earth without ozone is like a house without a roof. So we have to try our every bit to save this ozone layer, as well as try to reduce the global warming, whatever that you are creating, and we should try to save our earth. So let's go green, and thank you very much.